Hi, I'm Red Snapper, and welcome to the Showgirl's Closet. Today we will look at my backup sewing machine. I want to tell you what you need in a sewing machine. I know there may be some very experienced, very seasoned sewists who watch this, and I appreciate you, and I'm happy that you're here. I know there are also some newer sewists who are dropping by, and it can be very scary to buy your first sewing machine, especially if you're not used to sewing. I figured this would be a great way to point out the features that you need in an entry-level sewing machine that you could use for your entire sewing career, potentially. All right, this is my backup sewing machine. My regular sewing machine is, I guess, a Project Runway brother machine that I bought because it was on sale. It has some bells and whistles, but I don't use them all of the time. Don't be tempted by the ones that have all of the bells and whistles thinking, oh, this will make me a better sewist. No. And I could get by with this machine, honestly. I could get by with this very easily. Don't be tempted by the bells and whistles. The only reason I bought that machine was because it was on sale. It was cheaper for me to buy that machine than for me to get my former machine serviced. I'll tell you more about that though in a minute. Every sewing machine has an accelerator pedal. The fancier machines you can flip a little switch to help manage your speed, so you can go fast or slow or medium speed when you step down on the gas. But a simpler machine, you just step down on the gas and figure out where it feels best. A bit like driving a car. I wanted to show you this so you don't think that the sewing machine comes without a pedal. So, pedal. And you plug this in. Plug it into your machine before you plug it into the wall. Unplug your machine from the wall before you unplug the cord from the machine. All right, very simple machine. It is not threaded. This is a brother. I want to say it cost around $100 over 10 years ago. But it's a very sturdy machine. Any machine you get should have a straight stitch where you can vary the length, and a zigzag stitch, and a backup function. For some machines, you can press a little button. For this one, you hold this down. You can see it's got a little U. You hold that down and you step on the pedal to go backwards so that you can backstitch to finish the ends of your seams. This also has a buttonhole stitch, this 1, 2, 3, 4, and you turn the knob as you do each section. You don't have to have a buttonhole stitch. Even if you're doing buttonholes, you don't have to have this stitch feature. You can use a tight zigzag that you shrink the size of and zigzag at at all of the ends and then seam rip it open instead of having it pre-programmed with the stitches to go through. That's just a great handy feature to make things a lot easier. Sewing machines come with a number of feet. This is the standard foot. I use this the most. There's one that you can switch out that comes with this kind of machine that has the buttonhole feature that you can put in to size and stitch your buttonhole through. So you just replace the foot here. Pretty simple. And there are some other small things that come along when you purchase a machine. I've emptied out the belly of this machine here, but you get bobbins, you get a couple of needles, and you may get a couple of feet. The Project Runway machine came with more sewing machine feet that I could change in and out. And you can buy a lot of universal feet that can go with your machine very easily. You can get cheap ones. You don't have to get the machine's brand name for some of these machines. So you can get something that does a rolled hem. Or you can get something that, you can get a ruffle foot to attach if you're doing a whole lot of ruffling. You're good though with one foot to start. This works for your beginning. So you see here we have some different zigzag types. 2 through 5, those are all zigzag stitches. This will get you very far. You can finish the raw edge of fabric with a zigzag stitch. You can also use a zigzag for something decorative. You can use a wide zigzag to help you gather if you don't have a gathering foot. very utilitarian. Then over here we have the straight stitches of varying lengths. So you know, depending on what you're sewing, you'll choose your stitch length. If you're top stitching, you might go with a longer stitch length, or if you're gathering, you might go with one even longer. And you can see there's a little dot at the top on this machine. That shows where the needle sits. On my Project Runway machine, it sits like 5/8 of an inch away, which is a standard pattern seam allowance. 5/8 of an inch away from a certain marking here. So it's offset on the main foot. Number 7 here is offset. So if I flip this over to 7, you can watch the needle. And this is a, let's see if I can get this to, there we go. I'm gonna turn it. Yep. You see how it's moving around? I think I've got us matched up to 7. Okay, so 7 is off center, slightly off center. As opposed to 6. There's 6, the regular straight stitch down the center, 7. So that adjusts the needle. And then these are some other special zigzag stitches. You don't necessarily have to have these on your machine. Don't worry about them unless you know what they do. There's no reason for you to get confused about them. Mr. Snapper has sewn many puppets and even some shirts on this particular machine. There's one other feature right here. This wheel raises and lowers the needle. Now it's not necessarily doing it for me right now. You can see that it's moving where the thread goes, or the bobbin. Oh, it must be set to bobbin. There we go. You can wind bobbins on these right up top. You can see the bobbin, and you have to make sure it's pushed over. I didn't even notice that it was pushed over because this machine has been inside a storage thing for a bit. So bobbin. Here we go. Now it's going to move the needle. So if you need to go very carefully with something to navigate around, say, boning. Corsets are very easy to do on a machine like this. A lot of straight stitches in a corset, but you've got to navigate around boning sometimes. Or if you are stitching embellishments onto something like beaded lace and you need to stitch in the areas where there are no beads, you may want to take your foot off the gas and then manually manipulate so that you don't go too fast and sew over something that could break the needle. Also, wear glasses. I like to wear safety glasses when I sew. I've had needles break and fly. I think one hit me in the cheek before. So yeah, glasses. Okay, looking inside the belly. I never bothered to pull the stickers off this thing. There was a little baggie in here that contained, you know, this stuff. But I have it in my sewing desk, not in here. But I do want to show you, this is where the bobbin for this machine lives. You can see that it's upright. My other machine, it's flat. It sits under here in the front and it's parallel to the top. But this one is perpendicular. It's a simpler machine. So it goes inside this fancy little case. Now this machine, it's pretty easy to clean because you can see all of the stuff down here. And you want to clean it after each project because lint can jam things up in there and it can make things skip, and you don't want that. The kit usually includes a little brush. So you can take that brush to dust out the lint. Don't use compressed air, because you don't want to blow things in there even further. You don't want to get air up in that thing, you know what I'm saying? So you'll take the little, you know, you can also take a Swiffer to remove some of the surface dust. Dust, dust, dust. There are videos on YouTube about how to clean, but there is special sewing machine oil, and you put 1 drop where it tells you in this bobbin situation, and then you put it back together and roll again. If you're doing like a full-on cleaning this whole area, you can just dust it with the little brush and a Swiffer. And that's enough between most projects. So bobbins load differently. Different machines have different kinds of bobbins. The Brother bobbin is flat. So if you get Brother machines, you can interchange the bobbins. They have a flat top. But the Singer sewing machine has kind of a domed top. So it's kind of just a little bubbly. You can't use that in a Brother. And I don't think you can use one of these in a Singer. Pay attention to your bobbin. Get this right back in place. Excellent. Oh yeah, this one, because it's such a simple machine, look at that. I can take out this whole case to do a fancy cleaning. It just drops right into my hands. It's beautiful. Easy to maintain, a simpler machine. Now I have to put it back together. Okay, so that is the underside of the machine that you can easily clean. There are still gears and mechanical things in here that would need to be cleaned by a professional. You may have a professional in your home. You void the warranty if you open it up early, but I've had this for so long, I'm not really worried about the warranty because what are they going to do, honestly? This kind of machine is easier to service, but I will say this. This is an entry-level, very standard, beginner-friendly machine that works for experienced sewists as well. This is my backup machine. I kept it in my office when I had a job that was essentially being on call, so I could sew in the office with my backup machine while I was waiting for things to happen. The parts inside of these are not as sturdy as older machines. The machines of maybe your parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. Not all of the inside is made with metal, so it doesn't stand the test of time so much. I talked about my former machine that I decided to replace with the Project Runway fancy machine. It was another more modern machine. There are plastic things inside that can break and don't last as long. And it can be cheaper to just replace the entire machine than to have it serviced and have that part replaced. If you can, get an heirloom machine from someone in your family, an older machine that has the straight stitch, the zigzag, and the backup feature, and you will be fine. You can do a lot of sewing on something like that. You may go to a thrift store and find something fantastic there. And if you know someone who wants to service machines or is learning how to service machines, then you can make a low investment and let them fix a found machine for you. But if you can't get an older machine to do the workhorse jobs for you, or you want to get something that's clean and new and doesn't smell like liniment oil or whatever, then you can pick up a very simple machine like this. I highly recommend you look for sales. Wherever you go, there's probably a sale. If you look at online retailers, there's probably a sale. There are higher level, more expensive, fancier, perhaps longer lasting machines that cost more. I think you could get a Bernini or a Genome, and those cost a bit more. And if you're in a pinch, it may not be as easy for you to get the funds together to buy a whole new fancier machine like that, which is why I recommend get a cheapie that has some basic stitches or get something secondhand. Those are great options, especially if you're on a budget. And if you are a new sewist, you probably aren't ready to invest in something that costs hundreds of dollars or over $1,000. Wait until you know that you really enjoy sewing or you have a lot of professional projects lined up. And honestly, I've gotten by on my Brother serger and my Brother sewing machines for commissions over the years and building costumes and puppets and all sorts of nonsense. So there you go. Do you have any questions about sewing machines, especially entry-level sewing machines or basic sewing machines, or what you need in your sewing machine? Please drop me a comment. I would be happy to respond to you. And have you tried the more expensive machines? Do you have a second-hand machine? Do you have any tips for someone who's shopping for a second-hand machine that is actually made with all metal insides? Then, hey, let us know. Drop that in the comments too. I would love to hear from you. Be sure to like, subscribe, boop that bell for notifications. Thank you so much to my patrons. I appreciate you so very, very much. And you'll see me next time. Bye.